We're not on,
Start it
are
again.
we?
Let's start it again. Go. We're live now. We're live.
We're sorry for the mix-up, folks. But once again, welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. This morning, 8 prosecutors were weighing a man's life, discussing in a small conference room whether or not to seek the death penalty when their boss, Orange County, California District Attorney Todd Spitzer, wondered out loud if the black murder suspect had a history of dating white women. One prosecutor, a supervisor within the office with 24 years of experience, called the question irrelevant and inappropriate during the October 1st, 2021 meeting, but the district attorney persisted. According to one memo, Spitzer continued and said, he knows many black people who get themselves out of their bad circumstances and bad situations by only dating white women. He went on to describe a black man he'd known in college who Spitzer knew for sure had done so. According to the memo, the supervisor, who was a senior district attorney, said he tried to shut down the comments, reminding Spitzer that a new California law not only prohibited prosecutors from considering race while weighing sentencing, but also required them to disclose such conversations to the defense attorneys before trial. This is another example of what African Americans face when up against the criminal justice system. We're going to discuss that this morning with Dr. Breea C. Willingham, the Associate Professor of Criminal Justice at SUNY Plattsburgh, who also serves as Vice Chair of Faculty Senate and the Managing Editor of the Journal of Higher Education in Prison. Also joining us is Let It Be Known legal correspondent from the Tarver Law Firm in New Jersey, Attorney Robert Tarver, and journalist James Wright, who joins us now for the headlines this morning. Good morning to James Wright.
Good morning, Stacey Brown.
Good morning, James. It's always good to see you. James, this morning, a federal jury found Travis McMichael, Gregory McMichael, and William Rowdy Bryant guilty on all counts in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. The verdict came on the eve of the anniversary of Arbery's murder. The McMichaels and Bryant chased Arbery through their mostly white Georgia neighborhood in their pickup trucks, cornering him before Travis McMichael shot the innocent jogger with a shotgun. The trio was convicted in state court and given life sentences. The federal charges included a hate crime that exposed each of the men's history of racism. And James, throughout this trial, this 1-week trial, we got to hear racist comments via text messages and phone messages from the 3 defendants, thus leading to their conviction. But here's the other part of it, James, that really kind of gets the goat a bit. The prosecutors had reached a plea deal with the 3 men before the trial, but Wanda Cooper Jones, the mother of Ahmaud Arbery, protested loudly, saying no, they do not deserve a plea. She said, my son didn't get a chance to plea. And so
the members
with
of
that,
the DOJ, I'm very thankful that you guys brought these charges of hate crime. But back on January the 31st, you guys accepted a plea deal with these 3 murderers who took my son's life. Marcus and 2 of Ahmaud's aunties stood before the courts and begged the judge not to take a plea deal that the DOJ went before the judge and asked them to take a plea deal with these guys.
That's a mother.
Attorney Ben Crump just called these women, just called her name, Christian Clark.
Yes.
As I traveled to Brunswick on that Sunday afternoon, I spoke to Christian Clark and the lead attorney, Tara Lyons, begging them to please not take this plea deal. They ignored my cry.
All right.
I begged them. Even after the family stood before the judge and asked the judge to not take this plea deal, the lead prosecutor, Tara Lyons, stood up and ask the judge to ignore the family's cry.
Justice.
I mean, that's just that, that is just simply amazing, James. You just ignoring the family, and it's a good thing they didn't, because one of the benefits of the plea arrangement had it gone through was that these gentlemen, these men, got to serve their time in federal prison, 30 years, I believe it was. Instead, they are going to do natural life in a state prison, a tougher state prison, James.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First of all, the mother is absolutely right. Cooper Jones is right to be outraged. She deserves to be respected. Her viewpoint deserves to be respected. I understand in terms of economy, getting court cases done, moving the process along, the legal process along smoothly as possible. However, you consult the family when you make a move like that. And I will dare even say that were this a white, Wanda Cooper Jones was white, she would have been consulted. This is one of the little insults that Black people face in this criminal justice system, and that needs to be addressed very soon.
Yeah, we are. Our hearts go out to the family of Ahmaud Arbery, and I think that it's time that the president look into his Department of Justice. Under the former president, there was so many complaints about the Department of Justice, and apparently things haven't changed a whole lot, just if you just base it on this. So it's something to really, really consider here, that they would ignore the pleas of the family. These gentlemen had already been, and I keep saying gentlemen, this is like news speak, but these men had already been convicted in state court. You know what? This trial was only expected to last a week. It did last a week. I don't know how much more resources it took, but it's certainly, to that family of Ahmaud Arbery, it certainly was worth the resources to put these guys away for life in state prison. James, also in the news this morning, sad news, Zoe Bethel, the former model crowned Miss Alabama for America Strong in 2021, has died. Bethel, who worked as a reporter for Wright Broadcasting, suffered fatal injuries from a car accident earlier this month. Her family said in a social media post. The 27-year-old succumbed 8 days later to those unspecified injuries. In a statement, the family says Zoe had an accident Thursday night, February 10th, and sustained severe damage to her brain stem, and is in a coma. They posted that message on Instagram at the time, but after that, they said, unfortunately, the doctors were saying at that time the damage could not be repaired and that she may not have much time. Well, Grace Saldana, the editor-in-chief of Right Side Broadcasting, tweeted yesterday the news of Bethel's death. She says, besides the fact that she was always incredibly stunning, I'll always remember how convicted Zoe was in her faith in God, how dedicated she was to her beliefs in protecting life, and how much she cared for others. May she rest in peace. Another sad loss, far too soon. This amazing talent, James.
Yes, you wrote an article for the Washington Informer a few weeks ago. The lady's name escapes my name right now, but she committed suicide. And we have another beautiful, and this is just another beautiful Black woman whose life has ended all too prematurely. And we never know what great gifts she could have made to our race and to our country, and indeed the world.
Yeah, a lot of talent there for sure. And the other individual you was referring to was a former Miss USA as well. Also in the news this morning, James, Howard University has received a $2 million donation to digitize its Black press archives that contains more than 2,000 newspaper titles, including publications like the New York Amsterdam News, Chicago Defender, Washington Informer, Baltimore Afro, and other historically Black publications. The university said it hopes to make the archives more broadly available to researchers and the public. Once digitized, Howard's Black Press Archive will be the largest, most diverse, and the world's most accessible Black newspaper database. This is according to the director of Howard's Moreland Spingarn Research Center. James, this is a huge day for the Black press in particular, because all of our archives are there.
You know, and this is a huge day for Howard University. Um, you know, most of the time, instances like this tend to go to white universities. I'm thinking this might have, in another day, Stacey, had gone to the University of Maryland, College Park. But it is at Howard University where it's supposed to be. And as you just mentioned, those files and newspapers, past newspapers are there. So they will stay there. They will be digitized there. I have to slow down and saying that word too. And so that is just fantastic. And Howard will do a fantastic job preserving those historical artifacts.
Yeah, absolutely, James. And also in the news this morning, President Biden reportedly has begun interviewing candidates to succeed Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. The president has vowed to nominate the first Black woman to the High Court and said he expects to announce his selection by the end of this month, which is coming up really soon, James. Monday is the last day of this month. So we'll see Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, who serves on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia, California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger, Candace Jackson, who sits on the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals in Chicago, and J. Michelle Childs, a federal district court judge based in Columbia, South Carolina, are all viewed as strong candidates for the nomination. Judge Brown Jackson has received letters of support from a host of union groups, including the American Federation of Labor, Congress of Industrial Organizations, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and the National Education Association. Additionally, more than 170 Black Harvard alumni recently submitted a letter to the White House asking that President Biden select Judge Brown Jackson. Judge Childs also enjoys the support of Democrat power broker Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina. So we're going to find out very shortly, James, who this nominee will be. And it's going to be huge, James, to watch this and watch the process unfold as far as confirmation.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Stacey. You know, we here in Washington, we love to talk about things like that, whether it's going to be Brown Jackson or whether it's going to be Cougar or whether it's going to be Childs. I mean, that's what we do here in Washington. We're Washington. But regardless of who the president select, the selection will be historic. And I hope that the Senate will move expeditiously in terms of confirming the president's nomination.
Yeah, I just want to lift up, we love David Youngblood. He says, how about a grant to NNPA to digitize 230 newspapers of 195 years? He says, I'd work on that. And absolutely right, David. We are observing 195 years of the Black press of America. Of course, the NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, is the trade that represents the Black press of America. We're right there with you. Preston Harold, good morning, says, congrats. I love it. We really appreciate all of you for chiming in this morning. And please don't hesitate to send your questions as we segue now into the criminal justice system, where 8 prosecutors who weighed a man's life got a bombshell from the district attorney in California, Mr. Spitzer, threw in the fact that this Black defendant had previously dated a white woman. Let's discuss this because there's nothing appropriate about that. And we know California does have a law against what District Attorney Todd Spitzer said. Let's bring on the Let It Be Known's legal correspondent, legal analyst, I should say, from the Tarver Law Firm in New Jersey, Mr. Tarver, Attorney Tarver, and of course, Breea Willingham, the professor at SUNY Plattsburgh. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start, ladies first, as they say, Attorney Tarver. So let's go over to Professor Willingham. Professor, to hear the district attorney in Orange County, California, Todd Spitzer, bring up the fact that this Black defendant dated a white woman. You practice. I mean, you have a class. You do criminal justice. What was your reaction when you first heard this?
Actually, when I first heard it, I said, this has to be a joke, because how could any DA actually say this? But you know what? Honestly, this is how white supremacy works. White supremacy will make statements like this and then backtrack and say, oh, well, it was just an offhanded comment. There's really nothing wrong with it. I didn't do anything wrong. But history also dictates that white women often weaponize themselves or are weaponized against Black men and Black young men. I mean, have we heard of Emmett Till? So when he says that he knows somebody who, used a white woman to their advantage or dated a white woman to their advantage, what does that even mean? And how is that even relevant to this particular case? Dante Wright, his mother was white, but he was birthed from a white woman, but that did not save him from being killed by a white woman. So when Todd Spitzer says this, it makes absolutely no sense, but only in the context of this is how white supremacy works.
Yeah, and before we move forward, let's bring on the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. I'm told Dr. Benjamin Chavis is now joining us. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning, and thank you to our guest, Stacy. We're still celebrating the 195th year of the Black Press of America, but this is a very important subject in this morning's show.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be celebrating 195 years all year long. So we'll be making some great announcements. I'm sure Dr. Chavis and Claudette Perry and Karen Carter Richards are all working on some big things to look forward to. But Attorney Tarver, talk about this from a legal standpoint. You have, you're an attorney. You have a client, an African-American client, and you find out that the district attorney has not just in your case, but in so many other cases. As he also talked about knowing a guy back in college who was dating a white woman to further himself. What is the first thing you do, Attorney Tarver, in that situation?
Well, look, as an attorney who has handled death penalty cases before, as I've done for many years in New Jersey before they outlawed the death penalty, I can tell you this. All of the actions of the prosecutor are strictly scrutinized when it comes to taking someone's life. And so the fact of the matter is, I am absolutely certain that these statements are going to become part of the official record on the part of the defense attorney. Because the fact of the matter is, you've got all this extraneous stuff, race, whether or not he's dated a white woman, that have nothing to do with the underlying case and the determination of whether this man should lose his life, based upon what we call aggravating, which are the bad factors, and mitigating, which are the good factors, when you decide whether or not you're going to bring a death penalty case. And so what you really see here is outside influences coming in to make those decisions, and that should invalidate any determination as to whether or not the death penalty stands. Well, I will say one thing practically. This district attorney simply said what he thinks in the recesses of his mind, and what many of them think in the recesses of their mind. So think about this. This is just what you hear on the record, but you don't hear the real mental processes, the racist processes, as the professor just said, that go on in the minds of the people who make those decisions. And that's really what should trouble us most of all.
Yeah. And so, Professor, you and Attorney Tarver both, I guess this question really is for remedies. How do you remedy that in court? What happens now? I mean, this defendant knows that it's not just, an assistant district attorney or a low-level prosecutor. This is the district attorney who is saying these things. You have this on record now. What is the remedy here?
Well, I am no attorney, but I would say start over, because the case is tainted now. And so if I were a defense attorney, I would definitely be calling for a retrial or something to completely start over, because it is obvious now that this DA is prejudiced, is racist. And so how can he expect to get a fair trial moving forward? If it's possible to change jurisdictions, I don't know, but Todd Spitzer does not need to be a part of this case moving forward.
Yeah,
Dr. Willingham
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tarver.
Dr. Willingham is entirely right in her analysis. The first thing that should happen is that the death penalty should come off of the table. That's the biggest sanction there is. So there should be no consideration of death penalty because you've already tainted it, and we have no way of determining whether or not a future consideration of putting the death penalty on the table would be tainted by this or not. So that's just what happens. You forfeit your right to the largest and biggest sanction there is. The second thing is, as the professor said, you can move the case to another jurisdiction. Other people can handle these cases. It can go up to the Attorney General's office, who is responsible for supervision of individual district attorneys within the state of California. And that should happen. They should forfeit that, and it should come out of the hands of those racists, and I'm going to call them what they are for that type of conversation. It should come out of the hands of those racists and into the hands of their authorities to make a clear and direct determination.
Yeah, Erin C on YouTube, and we encourage everyone to our YouTube channel. She says he said the quiet part out loud this time, and she also says the remedy is he needs to lose his job. And she says that, and understanding that the district attorney, the assistant district attorney who reported that, who recorded it in a memo and reported that, lost his job. So it's really interesting, Attorney Tarver, Dr. Chavis, that the assistant who reported it lost his job. Erin C is saying that district attorney who said it should lose his job. Is that a fair remedy here?
Well, California has whistleblower laws. So the fact of the matter is, now that this thing has blown up and has become very public, I would expect that there would be a lawsuit on the part of that individual who lost his job. But why are we surprised at this? This is what happens every day. When people speak out against racism and racist actions, they pay a price. That's why we have whistleblower laws. And of course, as you know, whistleblower laws punish people who come forward and report things that they either object to or are objectionable against law or policy or statute.
Yeah, Dr. Chavis, this is why we have the black press, right? Attorney Tarver is saying why are we not surprised? We're not surprised, but here's the thing, right, Doc? We don't see it reported widely in mainstream media, so the black press needs to highlight these things. Am I correct, Dr. Chavis?
Well, I agree with Attorney Tarver and with Professor Willingham that this case, this exposure, is symptomatic of a larger problem. This is not an isolated comment by a random district attorney. How many district attorneys, not just in California, but across the United States, feel the same way, but just haven't been recorded, haven't been reported? We have a systemic racism problem in America, particularly in the criminal justice system. But it's just not limited to the criminal justice system. It's in the healthcare system. Look at all the voter suppression that's going on right now. That's systemic racism. Try to keep us from voting. So in my mind, Stacey, and I guess all this is connected to how we're going to dismantle apartheid in America.
Yeah, and you're right. As you know, Dr. Chavis, 2 years we went to the Bill Cosby trial, and during the jury selection there, when the prosecutor refused to seat any black jurors, when they finally fought and got one black juror on that case during the second trial, one of the assistant prosecutors said out loud, "Well, you have your one token." And I thought that was extremely racist, and said it out loud too. So you're right. It happens constantly. And here we have a district attorney in California, Orange County, California, Todd Spitzer, as our audience is saying, they said out loud what's been said quietly forever, really. Professor, so we mentioned the remedies, the potential remedies, but this thing will follow, whether it's Spitzer in that chair, it's going to follow that office for a very long time, isn't it?
Yes, it definitely is. And as it should, because I think the public now needs to be on notice, as they are. And so moving forward, whoever comes into that office, they are, or at least they should be, on official notice that they're being watched, and what they say, there will be consequences for that. But let me also say, though, going back to my comment when I first started, when I mentioned white supremacy, this is how it works. This is how white supremacy works in the criminal legal system, because you can take Todd Spitzer out of that office, as you should, but then another one would come in and another one. And so it's a trickle down effect. And it's not just really more a ripple effect. And it's not just a problem in California. So we can take Todd out, we can move this case to another jurisdiction, but there's always going to be another one in its place. And that's just, history dictates, again, that's how these systems of racism and oppression work. They just reiterate.
Yeah, Bobby Henry of the West Side Gazette in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, writes in that systemic racism is ingrained in American history. Now, Black history has to show that we will fight and we'll, with everything we have, to wipe out systemic racism. Attorney Tarver, your closing thoughts on this. Unfortunately, I'm told we are running out of time. Much too soon, but Attorney Tarver, your closing thoughts on this.
Well, those who observe this will see the intersection of the importance of the prosecutor. We had the prosecutors in the Arbery case who said, well, we don't want to move forward with this. We want to take a plea deal, and we want to allow these men to go into a lesser type sentence by the way of a federal prison. Then you have this prosecutor who's exercising the control over whether or not a man lives or dies. The message here is that we need to be involved in the system. We need to vote prosecutors in who have our interests in mind, and we need to punish prosecutors by way of taking official action who take action against our community. Never underestimate the power of the prosecutors in the criminal justice system.
Always appreciate Attorney Robert Tarver of the Tarver Law Firm in Jersey. Anybody ever needs some legal help or advice, please look up Attorney Tarver. He will get you that great information all the time. Professor Willingham, I'm going to give you, our special guest, a closing thought on this as well.
I think I'll say I just want people to, especially Black people, to remain vigilant, to keep applying that pressure to these systems, because no one is going to speak up for us but us.
Absolutely. Dr. Chambers, 195 years of the Black Press of America, and we continue to tackle these topics. Your quick closing thoughts on this.
We're still pleading our own cause, and we will continue to plead our own cause and to expose these injustices, expose the systemic racism. And I just want to thank our guests. We have to continue to fight. We should not allow what happened in California to divert our attention and to make us feel it's a hopeless situation. This death penalty case, if it winds up being a death penalty case, it's going to wind up at the U.S. Supreme Court. Why am I bringing that up? We thank President Biden for making a commitment to put an African-American woman on the Supreme Court. Right now, on the Supreme Court, as it's currently constituted, we do not have an advocate that has a commitment to see that there's equal justice from an African-American perspective.
Yeah. And Dr. Willingham, we really hope that we can invite you back to continue this conversation, because it can't end here. So we thank you so much. Of course, Attorney Tarver, we appreciate you. We appreciate all of you for watching. Again, please check out our YouTube channel. We love it when you watch on Facebook and Twitter and other places that you watch. But we also love it when you watch on YouTube at Black Press USA TV. We will see you tomorrow.